Sorin is a man who speaks the language of animals and the language of high-stakes myths. He lives for the champagne fizz of a new mystery, the kind that makes your skin prickle and your common sense evaporate. But tonight, at the edge of ruins that defy geometry, Sorin's animal companions have stopped following him. There is a tiny door in the shadows, a merchant with a sad smile, and a choice that could end his decade-long run across 7 continents. Welcome to Fable's Adventures. I'm your host, and today's narrative, The Skirting Board of Certainty, is a psychological fantasy for our 16-plus audience. It's a story about the dangerous gravity of curiosity, and the moment you realize that some invitations are actually mirrors. If you've ever chased a mystery just to avoid facing yourself, this story is for you. Please subscribe to join the caravan. The East Pocket is opening. Let's go!
The geometry of wanting. The caravan tastes like possibility tonight, like cinnamon and rust, and the particular electric charge of secrets about to change hands. I know this taste intimately. I've been chasing it across 7 continents and through the better part of a decade, and let me tell you, it never gets old. The way it fizzes on your tongue, the way it makes you feel like you're exactly where you need to be, even when every rational particle of your being is screaming otherwise. Sorin, the ravens won't come, Mira says, not for the first time, and I wave a hand at her, dismissive, magnificent, a gesture that contains multitudes. The ravens are being dramatic. Ravens are inherently theatrical creatures. Have you noticed? They're basically tiny feathered philosophers with commitment issues. She doesn't laugh. Mira hasn't laughed in approximately 6 hours, which is unusual enough to notice if you're the sort of person who notices things, and I am absolutely the sort of person who notices things. I notice the way the shadows pool in the ruins' corners at impossible angles. I notice how they don't quite obey the laws of geometry that the rest of the world seems bound by. I notice, and this is the bit I'm being evasive about because admitting it would crack the champagne fizz I've cultivated so carefully. I notice that my companions, every single one of them, from the faithful copper-backed hawks to the ancient tortoise who's been with me since Morocco, have begun treating the caravan like it's been cordoned off with barbed wire and bad intentions. A merchant came to the tent, Mira continues, her voice doing that thing where it gets very quiet and very there. While you were charming the spice traders, he says he saw something disappear into the East Pocket. The East Pocket. Ah, that's where things get interesting, isn't it? That's where the tiny door appears in the skirting board of your certainty and you suddenly can't stop staring at it, even though you know that opening it would be monumentally stupid. What sort of something? I ask, and I can hear myself doing it. The grandiose shift, the way I'm already spinning narrative threads before I've even heard the answer. It's a terrible habit. It's also kept me alive more times than I can count. He called it the Whisper Compass, Mira says. Said it belonged to the Valdris expedition. Said it pointed to things people needed to find, rather than things that actually existed. I should dismiss this. I should laugh it off the way I laugh off the geometric impossibilities, and the shadow pools, and the increasingly emphatic refusal of every creature in my considerable menagerie to cross the caravan's threshold. I should chalk it up to merchant's exaggeration, the kind of mythology laundering that happens when you mix desperation with dark wine and an audience willing to believe anything. Instead, I feel the champagne fizz turn to something else, something that tastes like vertigo. Because here's the thing about being someone who speaks the language of animals, who can feel the subtle shifts in energy before they unfold. You learn to trust your gifts more than you trust your eyes, and my gifts have been screaming at me since we arrived at these ruins. Not in words, the gift doesn't work in words, not really, but in a sensation like standing at the edge of something vast, like the world is humming a frequency just slightly out of reach. And now there's a tiny door, metaphorically speaking, a whisper compass, pointing toward things that don't exist, lost in a pocket of space where time bends and my companions refuse to follow. "Show me," I say to Mira, and I watch her face do something complicated. Relief and dread, dancing together like lovers who've just realized they're dancing over a chasm. We move through the caravan at that peculiar hour when merchants are sleeping, but the night is still vigilant. The canvas glows from internal lantern light, creating a landscape of luminous shadows. It's beautiful in a way that makes my chest tight. It's the kind of beautiful that precedes terrible decisions. The East Pocket is exactly where it shouldn't be. I say that deliberately because you need to understand something about this place. The ruins don't follow conventional spatial logic. The archaeologists, when they bothered to document anything at all, kept sketching maps that refused to reconcile with one another. Rooms that appeared in multiple locations, corridors that spiraled in directions that shouldn't exist. The caravan settled here anyway, because wanderers like us don't have the luxury of logic. We have hunger and faith and a desperate belief that the universe keeps its best secrets in the places that break the rules. But the East Pocket breaks the rules further. It's not really a pocket so much as an absence, a geometric impossibility where shadow pools so densely that it seems to have texture, weight, intention. Looking at it is like looking at a tiny door in a tree trunk and realizing, with mounting horror and fascination, that something on the other side is looking back. "The merchant said it fell through there about 3 hours ago," Mira murmurs. "He was examining it and it slipped," I finish. Because of course it did. Because the universe has a sense of timing, and mine is historically impeccable in the worst possible way. And now it's in the place where the animals won't go. "Where you shouldn't go," Mira says, and there's no equivocation in her voice, no room for negotiation or clever wordplay or the kind of elaborate rationalization I usually deploy when I'm about to do something unconscionable. Here's where I'm supposed to tell you that I hesitate, that some small part of me, the part that isn't giddily unmoored and chasing mysteries like a drunk chasing stars, recognizes the trap, the setup, the way this entire situation has the architecture of a terrible idea wearing a coat of glittering possibility. But that would be evasive, and I've already been evasive enough. I step toward the pocket. The temperature drops first, not gradually, but in a sudden gasp, as if the shadow has inhaled and stolen all the warmth with it. Then comes the sensation of wrongness, the same feeling my animals have been broadcasting in increasing volume. It's like pressing your hand against a glass partition and realizing the thing on the other side is also pressing back. "Sorin!" Mira reaches for me. I step into the pocket, and here's where everything I've been spinning carefully unravels with the most astonishing speed. There is no darkness inside the pocket. There is instead a kind of crystalline clarity that seems to exist in a space between moments. I can see, and I can see, which immediately contradicts everything I've assumed about these shadows, that the pocket is actually a chamber. A small chamber, no larger than a closet, its walls lined with symbols that hurt to look at because they're moving in ways that symbols shouldn't move. And standing in the center of this chamber, perfectly preserved, perfectly waiting, is not a compass at all. It's a door, an actual, literal, tiny door, the kind you'd expect to find in a skirting board, except it's built from something that looks like starlight rendered in solid form, and it's open. On the other side of the tiny door, I can see, oh no. "The merchant," I hear myself say, my voice sounding very far away. "The merchant who lost the compass. He's still here," Mira says from outside the pocket, her voice distorted by whatever membrane separates this space from the caravan. He's been watching the entrance. He never left. And that's when I understand. That's when the champagne fizz turns to genuine vertigo-inducing terror, because I've spent so long chasing mysteries that I never stop to consider what happens when a mystery is actually a trap, and the person laying the trap understands you better than you understand yourself. The merchant knew I'd come here, knew I'd trust my gift more than my fear, knew that the one thing I cannot resist is a door, literal or metaphorical, that promises to open onto something I don't understand. He knew, in short, that I'm exactly the kind of person to walk through it. And worse is the realization that comes as I stare at that tiny door made of starlight, watching something move on the other side. I want to walk through it, even knowing it's a trap, even knowing that helplessness, true, absolute, irrevocable helplessness, might be waiting on the other side. Because I've built my entire existence around the belief that there's no challenge I can't overcome, no mystery I can't unravel, no horizon I can't reach. And a door that exists in impossible geometry, in a space where my companions refuse to follow, in a pocket of shadow where the rules don't apply. That's the one thing that might actually prove me wrong. And isn't that exactly what I've been searching for all along? I reach toward the tiny door. Sorin, don't. Mira's voice breaks with genuine fear, and it's that, her fear, not my own, that pulls me back to something like clarity. I turn around. The pocket's walls are starting to shimmer, the symbols are moving faster, and I can see now, with the particular clarity of someone standing at the edge of their own mythology collapsing, that this chamber isn't a trap, it's a test. The merchant isn't trying to trap me in the ruins. He's trying to trap me in the only thing that's ever been able to trap anyone like me, the promise of an answer to a question I haven't even learned to ask yet. I step backward, out of the pocket, back into the ordinary shadows and ordinary cold of the caravan night. The pocket seals behind me with a sound like champagne bottles uncorking in reverse, a gathering rather than a release. And standing exactly where Mira said he would be, perfectly preserved by shadow and intention, is the merchant. He smiles when he sees me. It's not a cruel smile. It's almost sad. The compass, he says softly, was never lost. It was never a compass, I say, and my voice sounds like it's coming from somewhere very far away, somewhere more honest than I usually permit myself to be. No, he agrees. It was an invitation to step through, to stop running, to finally find something you can't solve. And here's the thing that makes my chest tight and my hands shake. I don't know if I'm relieved that I didn't accept it, or devastated that I can still feel it calling from the other side of that impossible geometry. Who are you? I ask. Someone who was like you once, he says. Someone who walked through the tiny door when the choice presented itself. He turns away before I can ask him anything else, and he dissolves into the shadows, not the ordinary shadows of the caravan, but the geometrically impossible ones, the ones that hum with potential and danger, and the particular loneliness of mysteries that can never be solved. By morning, the ruins will seem ordinary again. The animals will return, chattering and anxious, desperate to reassure themselves that I'm still myself, still bound to this world by ordinary rules and ordinary fear. But I'll know the truth. I'll know that there's a tiny door hidden in the geometry of this place, and that walking through it is always an option. That some mysteries aren't meant to be solved. They're meant to be chosen, knowingly, with full understanding of what choosing them will cost. And maybe, That's the real reason I'm still out here, chasing horizons and unraveling ancient secrets. Not because I'm searching for answers, but because I'm waiting to find someone or something that I can't understand, that I can't overcome, that will finally let me stop running.
Sorin walked away from the door, but he didn't walk away from the feeling. There's a specific kind of haunting that happens when you offered exactly what you've been running toward, only to realize you aren't ready to stop running. The merchant didn't want Sorin's life. He wanted Sorin to see that his gift for solving mysteries was also his greatest cage. Let's talk about the tiny door in the comments below. If this story of starlight doors and impossible pockets resonated with you, please like and subscribe. For more atmospheric psychological dramas, check out the Fables Adventures app. Until tomorrow.